Now, have a listen to this. Well, could that become the sound of the past? Because according to a new study, we should forget about loud revving engines and queue up to buy electric cars instead. The authors say in Britain, for example, a massive switch to electric vehicles could cut oil imports by 40% and spark a 47% drop in carbon emissions in just 15 years. So can you imagine the impact electric cars could have in countries that seriously struggle with air pollution, countries like China or India? But electric cars are still a rare sight on the roads right around the world. So what is actually stopping drivers from making the big switch? Well, let's talk to our guest in Delhi, because we're joined by Deepesh Rathore, who's the director of the Emerging Markets Automotive Advisors Consultancy, and a little later we'll talk to one of the authors of this report. But Deepesh, to you, first of all, I mean, when I would go to India as a child, there are only two types of cars, Fiats and Ambassadors. That, of course, exploded a few years ago. You've got all the big names there. So what do people there make of electric cars?
I don't think electric cars have registered on the Indian mindscape at all. We don't make anything out of them, really. They are very odd-looking, very impractical. No one buys them, really.
And why do you think it is? Well, I mean, you said there at the start, it simply doesn't register. Why do you think that is?
Well, unlike the developed part of the world, where we first have cars which are low on mileage compared to cars in India, because India is primarily a small car country. So the Indian customer has a choice of cars which easily give about 20 to 25 kilometers to a liter. That's pretty efficient for a gasoline or diesel engine. And the second is India is a power deficit country. So if I do have an electric car, I don't have the power to charge it, and then the government hasn't provided the infrastructure to charge the car. So it really doesn't make sense for me to buy a car which just rots around in a garage.
We're looking at pictures of your everyday street scene, jam-packed with cars, but none of them electric. Here in the studio is Andy Eastlake, director of the Low Carbon Vehicle Partnership, one of the authors of this study. Welcome to the programme. So, I mean, people are buying them, certainly in the West, but not buying them in huge numbers. Why?
They are expensive, and one of the problems that we face is that the price up front is expensive, but they're much cheaper to run. And that was the focus of the report, to try and demonstrate how actually over the lifetime of the vehicles, these really do make sense for the consumer as well as for the... How
much of a cost difference is there if you were to buy an ordinary car compared to one of these?
Well, at the moment, the cost difference could be £5,000, £10,000. There are grants available, and those are being taken up in larger and larger numbers. In fact, the first 2 months of this year, 1% of all new vehicles were plug-in vehicles.
I mean, it's interesting because you list in this study, in this report, all the reasons why perhaps people should make the switch, but of course people are not. So apart from costs, what are the other things that are holding people back? Because there are perhaps quite a lot of perceptions about these types of cars, perhaps wrong perceptions or correct perceptions?
Yeah, I think the perceptions are wrong. Clearly, any market like this takes a while to develop, and it takes a while for the products to come to the market. So we started out with very few electric vehicle products, very limited range available. There are about 40 vehicles coming to the market only this year itself. So we have around about 20 vehicles available now and another 40 coming on stream. So the range of vehicles available becomes one of the key enablers.
Deepesh was making the point that people there in India think they're rather ugly. We're just seeing one there on the streets here in London. I mean, it's interesting, Deepesh, that I mean, cars, certainly in India, when I am there, they are such, I suppose it's true everywhere, such an aspirational thing as well. Do you think that partly plays into, again, why people perhaps choose to go for your big brand names, your VWs, your Mercedes, your whatever it is?
Well, that is part of the equation. Cars really are aspirational in India. At the same time, companies like Honda have tried to introduce hybrid cars, not purely electric cars, but hybrid cars in the Indian market, and it hasn't worked, mostly because of the steep pricing.
And presumably infrastructure as well there. I mean, there is so much to be done just with ordinary infrastructure. Trying to actually set up an infrastructure for electric cars, I mean, does that go anywhere, do you think, in terms of government money going into this?
Yeah, now it's like the government has given very little boost to the industry, and whatever boost was given was for some sort of direct subsidy to the electric vehicle. That doesn't make any sense, because if you're not investing in the infrastructure, it doesn't make any sense to provide the car at a cheaper rate, a cheaper price, because the customer is still not going to buy it.
So there are the problems there. Andy Eastlake, in terms of here, what about the infrastructure here? Because so much work needs to be done in terms of plug-in points, about long journeys. I mean, we're still grappling with the basics, aren't we?
Well, I think I wouldn't necessarily agree, because the infrastructure is there. There's an awful lot of capability in the home to charge up your electric cars. So you've got a great deal of capacity there already. There's a lot of investment going into public infrastructure and fast recharging on the motorway service stations.
Question, why are the big companies not ploughing loads of money into this? Because it's still there on the fringes. Why?
Well, the fact is they are now. We have mainstream product available from mainstream manufacturers, premium, value, VW, BMW, Mercedes. They all have product available for the plug-in grant here in the UK, and we have more and more coming along stream. Ford have a product. It's there, it's ready, and it is available for the public.
Well, there we have to leave it. Andy Eastlake and Dibesh Rathore, thank you very much for those thoughts on electric cars, which brings us right to the end of today's Global programme. Hope you've enjoyed it. See you again next time. Bye-bye.